Welcome to this published authors show. My name is Kenneth Muyingo, and with me I have a special guest that I will be interviewing. First, I just want to mention if you watch this interview and you would like to write a book yourself, to become an author and write your first book, there's a link with the interview for you to join the group, become an author and write your first book, to connect with like-minded people who are doing the same. And with that said, I would like to get into the interview by asking my special guest to say hello to our viewers and listeners and to introduce himself.
Oh, hello. Thank you for having me. It's quite an honor. And I'm Micheal Suubi, a Ugandan by nationality and an African. Yeah, I'm an author, and my first ever published book is Chronicles of Iruba. And yeah, I've written quite a number of write-ups, stage plays, but they're not published officially. So that's something to think about and work on. I also run a podcast talking about African politics and Ugandan politics with the Native Afro Media. If you have time, you can check it out. Besides that, I'm a Musoga by tribe as a Ugandan. I'm sure you know where Musoga is. That's Eastern Uganda.
Yes.
And yeah, everything about me is more Ugandan than can ever be, really. So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Michael, for making time for this interview. And that's quite a profile. So you are from Uganda originally,
Yes,
but you are not in Uganda right now.
nope. I'm in the Netherlands.
Very
Um,
nice. Very
yeah.
nice. That's close by because we are in the same country, actually. But thank you for making time for this interview. And if somebody, you have shared a lot about who you are, but if somebody is watching this interview and after hearing all that you have shared, they feel like they still want to know something more about Michael, what can you share with them?
First of all, Michael, Michael is also still learning about Michael.
I like that.
But what he has learned so far about this person they call Micheal Suubi is I'm um I'm a Musoga.
Yes.
If you read the book, you will understand how I strongly attach to my culture, but above all to my Africanness.
Yeah.
I add a lot of value to that because I feel like you can change other things. You can change your religion, you can change your nationality, but you can never change your ancestry. You can never change your DNA because that is who you really are.
Yeah.
And the reason why I wrote this book in the way I wrote it was how how relevant can I still be to my culture? And for all the writers, you know that if you write something that is out of uh, your connection or something that you connect with, you lose a form of relevance
Yeah.
because then you're starting to talk about things that you don't understand.
Yeah.
So this is what makes me Micheal, understanding that being African or being black is valuable and respecting this and cherishing it with all the necessary force, and other things can fall in line, you know. You can talk about I'm educated. You can talk. I've done a communication degree at Uganda Christian University, languages and communication. I'm following a degree right now in communication at the Han here in Arnhem, close by. So, but to me, education is just a learning process. You know,
Yeah.
you pick something from it. It enables you to go to acquire more knowledge. When I was still in Uganda, because of the education system, I hated school. I really hated school. I'm sure you did too.
Tell me about that. Why did you hate school?
uh, yeah, where is the relevance in all these things? I mean, I studied chemistry at some point. I did
Yeah,
biology. Now I'm doing communication.
yeah,
I studied about Captain Lugard and the missionaries. All this whitewashed history at some point. And right now, I'm asking myself, how relevant was all this information to mold me into the person? We have a that was my biggest fight with the education system.
yeah,
I felt like it was taking time from me, especially the Ugandan education. It was taking time, and it wasn't putting me in a place of relevance. It
yeah,
was making me an employee. It was not triggering my creativity. It was
yeah,
not pushing me to the position of find yourself, use your resources, use your talent,
exactly.
uh, and become better as
Yeah,
an individual. So the hatred
I
was real.
I totally agree with you because in a way the system is set up to teach us to remember and
Exactly.
not to learn how to think.
Exactly.
So I totally agree with what you're saying there. But wow, thank you so much. So I have a feeling we're going to enjoy this one. And
Yes.
so you, amidst of all of this, you have published the book Chronicles of Iruba.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
So tell us about the book. What inspired you to write the book?
Uh, Africa.
Africa. Wow.
Africa inspired me. Uh, my origin as an African, as a Ugandan, and as a Msoga, coming from the Mlinda clan and coming from the house of Samanya,
Yeah.
being called Chiyimba as my clan name,
Yeah.
I noticed that there is a social structure in which my identity as an individual is rooted.
Yeah.
And this identity is always at conflict, you know.
Yeah.
And what is being lost is understanding the gravity of uh, how I can connect to myself constantly, despite of where I am in the world.
Yeah.
And that is probably a thing that is happening to many Africans. You
Yeah.
know, even our brothers that have grown up here, African Americans or Afro Europeans or Afro Chinese, wherever
Yeah.
they are, the struggle is always in connecting with themselves because of the roots, you know.
Yeah.
And so this book is written from a position of I know my social structure,
Yeah.
I know what is happening within my community, I
Yeah.
understand my kingdom, the Chabazinga kingdom,
Yeah.
and how am I going to tell my story in a way that when you read the story, you enjoy it, you like it, but then you also, if you're from Uganda, you can relate this to modern day politics.
Yeah.
You can relate it to just kingdom politics in general.
Yeah.
So that was the that's where I'm coming from.
I see. Wow. You shared some really interesting things there. And you mentioned that Africa inspired you. And the fact that you are from Uganda and you are a Musoga. I know some people from Africa who are from Uganda and they are Basoga, but they have not written books. What I want to understand is what inspired you to say this book needs to be written.
Uh,
Do you
so
get what I'm saying?
yeah, my writing process begins when one of those days when I was still very active in church. Uh, a friend tells me, Michael, you're a very creative person. We need a Christmas play, a stage play, a Christmas production. Can you
Yeah,
write? He's called Moses Menya, Waiswa. He tells me, write a script for this.
yeah,
I've been writing poetry and writing songs because I also sing and play guitar. And so I've been doing this kind of writing, but then he threw this on me. And therefore, suddenly, because I've done literature before or read stories that were entertaining,
yeah.
then I think to myself, I'm like, oh, I can actually write a play. How do I write a play? I
Uh-huh.
start writing the plot. I said, this is not coherent. It's not connecting. I delete it. I write something again.
Yeah,
And I produced a play, you know.
Wow.
And from that day, those were the days I was in UCU. I started writing for different projects. They call me at this church, they call me at uh, production, national theater, and here and there. I was working with a few people here and there, looking and reading through their scripts and picking a few things for myself. But to come to this story, it's the culture itself, you know.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the political situation in Uganda.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the cultural standing in Uganda
Yeah.
from my kingdom.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, how can I create a kingdom out of this kingdom?
Yeah.
How can I create a paradigm shift
Yeah.
through telling a story about what's going on,
Yeah.
about how it can be changed, how it can be made better. And in a way, because of communication, I try to use my journalistic tendencies
Yeah.
or traits, but coupled with a kind of creativity, the African storytelling creativity,
Yeah.
you know, and
I see.
putting it in Africa in a setting where it remains relevant.
Wow. Amazing. And I see what you mean. And you wrote the book. When did you publish the book?
I published, I've even forgotten the date. So it was the first copies were actually printed in Uganda,
Yeah.
I think about 1 month ago.
Yeah.
But it's not officially out
Yeah.
because of I'm a little bit skeptical because of the pressure, the social pressure right now,
Yeah.
and not for me because I could literally say I'm safe, but the people that have helped me work on this publication.
Yeah.
So that's why I first decided to publish it on Amazon,
Very nice.
because yeah, it is safer for people here
Yeah.
to read the copy and try to relate with it. But within the next 2 weeks, officially, it will be published in Uganda and it will be on shelves in libraries and people can access them. So we're trying to work on the details, the heres and theirs of involved in that.
Very nice. We'll put the link for Amazon with the interview so that people can access it.
Yeah.
And the other thing, so the book was published.
Mm.
What's the vision that you have for Chronicles of Iruba? Where do you see this book?
Well, first of all, my biggest inspirations are people like Chinua Achebe, Wole Soyinka, um, and to mention but a few, really many creative people. I'm hoping if you're aware of I forget the name, the Biafra. If
Yeah.
you're aware of Biafra, the
Yeah.
original Nigerian Biafra, and what the writers did to publicize what was going on within their countries,
Yeah.
and to also create awareness about a social state in
Yeah.
which people were, but also to help create and forge a certain form of unity, you know,
Yeah.
because like it or not, from my personal observation, I see that Ugandans are deeply divided people,
Yeah.
and uh, we are one country, we love each other, but we are still divided, and
Yeah.
that is also because of the beautiful social structure that we have.
Yeah.
This social structure divides you from the time you're born, from the basis of your gender. If you're a boy, you're a girl, that's already going to go in different ways. If you're from a certain tribe or a certain clan, it will go a different way.
Yeah.
If you're from a certain region, it will go a different way.
Indeed.
So to me, I want to bring, I'm trying to use Chronicles of Iruba to open people's eyes to see that, look, we have the same problem,
Yeah.
which is bad leadership.
Yeah.
We have the same problem, which is a little bit of carelessness on our side as citizens or
Yeah.
the citizens of Iruba. And if we point fingers at our leaders, we also need to focus on directly contributing in developing our society and our communities.
Yeah.
Everyone has a role to play. The old saying that it takes two to tango, you
Yeah.
know, this is what I'm trying to put across. Like, okay, there's a problem there, but there's
Yeah,
also a problem here. Let's
indeed,
point the fingers, but let's also be practical in causing and building solutions for our society and our communities.
indeed.
So that's the vision I want. Yes, I want to sell books. I want to sell copies, you know, because I actually am already working on the second, you know, this is
Yeah,
a follow-up book for the first release. At least I have a vision of at least 5 series, and I'm
yeah,
out of this. And in the future, I would want to probably write a stage play or a movie out of it.
yeah,
And also, I'm working on the audiobooks as well
yeah,
for this one. So I want to try and put the message out there. For me,
yeah,
the message is key. The sales will follow. If they follow, that's good.
indeed.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
The sales is the bonus, but the message
the message,
is the heart of it's the gist of the whole thing
indeed.
for me.
From what I understand from you, so it is the desire to put this message out there that was your greatest inspiration and drive for you to get on this journey.
Yes,
Amazing.
absolutely.
And you mentioned quite a couple of things. You have a journalistic background, communication, and then um, music. You also play guitar.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the experience when you were asked to write the play.
Mm.
Uh, would you say that that was your first real encounter with writing, or is there an experience before that that you could look back to and say, this is what inspired me to start writing, actually?
So every African is a writer
Ah,
because every African is a storyteller. Our ancestors who used to live in caves, you know,
ah,
they had paintings they put on walls. They scribbled down uh, arithmetics that some scientific brains are still trying to decipher, even up to date, you know.
yeah,
So there's a form of ingenuity
yeah,
to coming from a cultural background that because writing is a technical process of telling a story
yeah,
or telling a message,
yeah,
whether you're writing about self-help or administration, you're writing about religious issues, you're trying to tell a message.
yeah,
Now, the difference is that when you're writing a message, it could be straightforward and structured.
yeah,
But when you're telling a story, it's more of the artistic devices you're using.
yeah,
It's more of the connection with the story that you're telling.
yeah,
It's more of what is the setting and how relevant is it to the reader.
yeah,
So when you put all these things together, some things can come easily for an African, like knowing their culture is already a big boost in the art of writing and telling stories. It's already a big boost.
yeah,
So for me, when finally got the boldness to start writing poetry,
yeah,
that's I think at about the age of, if I recall, about the age of 11, I started writing carelessly, you know,
yeah,
picking a few things, reading about Shakespeare, the common to be or not to be,
yeah,
and following up on a few things here and there. Then this started growing in itself. It
yeah,
started maturing slowly and slowly. But what I did not know by then was that the art of storytelling was already within me.
yeah,
And the passion in itself was just taken by connecting with the right purpose, which is
yeah,
why am I writing?
yeah,
What do I want to achieve with this writing?
yeah,
And then I finally realized I can actually tell a story out of this.
yeah. Wow, that's amazing. And indeed, we are Africans, natural storytellers, and looking at the situation in Uganda, or we could say in Africa in general, but we could zero it down to Uganda.
Yeah.
With the experience that you have, being from Uganda and having written Chronicles of Iruba, what do you see right now is the real problem or the real challenge in Uganda at the moment?
So that's a very good question. Like I pointed back a few minutes ago, I said
Yeah,
there is what we can call the citizen mandate,
yeah,
and there's what we can call the leadership mandate.
yeah,
When you bring these two things together, you have what you call the mandate of society
yeah,
towards each other. So we, between ourselves, we sign kind of a contract,
yeah,
you know, between the government and the citizens sign a contract, and that agreement is called the constitution.
yes,
Both of you agree that by default or by active interest, you agree that we shall follow these rules so that
yeah,
we keep our society safe.
indeed.
The only challenge that we have in Uganda is that, on a greater extent, the government has moved away from that.
Yeah,
On a lesser extent, the citizens have been frustrated, so they've fallen away
yeah,
from the ideals that they've talked about, or the citizen mandate.
yeah,
This is also literally because, as a society in Uganda, we've moved away from our original culture.
yeah,
For every place that is experiencing the process of dualism, the
yeah,
existence of two uh, warring cultures, you have the modern culture and you have the indigenous African culture.
yeah,
Uh, so when you put these two things together, there is a conflict that is generated in the individual called a Ugandan, at a tribal level, at a religious level, at a social level.
yeah,
That's why tribalism is a big thing, and our leaders use it to divide and rule,
yeah,
you know. But when you bring it back and say, okay, our differences can actually be used to unite us.
yeah,
Because if I'm a Musoga and I can do this, it means Mnyankole can do this better than I do. But if I do this and we come together, then we get the help of the Acholi who does this better than all of us. We together we form a perfect society that is trying so hard to thrive and
yeah.
produce better and better to support future generations, to support our own living and making our lives better.
I see.
So there's a whole political philosophy behind why our society is not functioning the way we want it to function.
Yeah,
And the bigger extent goes to bad leadership, because we've had people who are warmongers and hungry for the gun all the time. But even as Ugandans, we've been negligent in the part of why do we choose the wrong people, you know? And
yeah,
then there's also the form of negligence of, I usually ask Ugandans when they say, oh, the city is dirty and this and this. I say, okay, yeah, I know Museveni has not put the facilities in place for dumping garbage, but did Museveni dump the garbage there?
mm-hmm.
As a citizen, you did that.
Yeah,
So if you know there's a problem with bad rubbish, if the government is not helping, what are you going to do about it? Let's be proactive in creating solutions for ourselves, because you already know, everyone knows, every Ugandan knows, when you sit down and you wait for the government to help you, you're in your own movie.
indeed.
You've had the phrase government yet yambe.
Yeah,
At some point, even the government said, the president said, "Tusaba government yet yambe." So, so, so
yeah,
you're waiting for a
yeah,
person who is waiting for help.
indeed. Wow, that's a very tragic situation.
Yeah,
You're
it
waiting
is.
for the person who's also waiting for help. It's I'm reminded of a quote. I've forgotten who said it, but he said, "Be the change that you want to see in the world."
That must be Mahatma Gandhi, I think.
Gandhi, yes.
Yes.
That we have to be the change that we want to see in the world. And from what I hear you sharing is you say this is a two-sided coin, that
Yep.
the government has a responsibility and a duty
Yeah.
but the citizen also has a responsibility and a duty as to themselves first and then to their fellow citizens.
Yes.
And also, what I picked from what you shared is the aspect of like synergizing, having people to work together rather than against each other.
Yeah.
That if each ethnic group would focus and do what they do best and trade and exchange their goods and services with the other ethnic groups, I
Yeah.
think we would be able to make some great things happen.
Yeah.
But I see what you mean. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, looking at the most recently concluded election, what are your thoughts on that?
Um, First and foremost, I am not surprised. Let me just put it out there. I'm not surprised that there was a form of violence.
Ah,
There was brutality even before the elections. There was a form of we knew that it was not going to be. I knew that it was not going to be transparent. You
ah,
know, I didn't expect much as it is to change. Why? You cannot keep on doing the same thing and you expect different results.
yeah,
To me, it is just a little bit depriving of. I mean, to the Ugandan, it's a position of we know the truth.
yeah,
We know you're saying you won the election, but we also know that these percentages are a little bit way more than what you know.
yeah,
And some people showed up to vote,
yeah,
and the ballot boxes were already full.
yeah,
You know, people are being beaten in the streets.
yeah,
The police is doing what the police has been told to do with orders from above.
yeah,
As a Ugandan, I am not shocked. You know, you've had this story before. Two
yeah,
years before the election before this and the election before that, you had this story before.
yeah,
And I'm just exasperated at the idea that Uganda, a beautiful country, is always going down into the same bad history.
yeah,
When Museveni came to power, he said he had come to make Uganda a better place and safer for every Ugandan.
yeah,
But then the violence, the strongman idealism of aggression against citizens, the 50 something people that were shot down because of the Free Bobby Wine riots
yeah,
in Kampala, including kids, including women who are just going about their business. These things, some people are waking up to this now,
yeah,
but I have seen this before. So for me, it's almost like we've not learned anything.
yeah,
We're not learning how to become better. The NRM, which says they are the party in power, has not learned the idea of, you know what, we can give Uganda the best gift we can ever give to Uganda, which is a peaceful transition into power. We
yeah,
can give Uganda the best gift of being um, honest about the election. If we lost the election, let's be honest about it. So
yeah,
that brings out the idea of bad leadership, which is you have your own selfish interests and you keep pushing yourself upon this, you keep going with this until we get to the place of civil unrest,
yeah,
and that's why I don't want Uganda to go there,
yeah,
because we are so divided that if
yes,
we had a civil unrest and you saw, imagine a country with over 50 something tribes and
yeah,
they all turned against each other, that's a boiling point
yeah,
for violence. It's a
yeah,
hot spot. And
yeah,
that's the thing that I don't want to see.
yeah,
I don't want to have another genocide in Uganda.
indeed.
Imagine a country like Rwanda with only a few tribes, and they went through the horrors that they went through.
Yeah,
And the West stood by and they watched it. So why don't we Ugandans avoid this? You know, why don't we avoid such a thing? Because for us, it's going to be really bad.
yeah,
So that's why we come out and speak up and say, look, tribalism is bad.
yeah,
Corruption is killing our country. Let's save our country. Let's do better. Let's serve each other. Let's
indeed,
kill the selfish leadership.
indeed.
And people say, "Oh, you're being ignorant. There's only one person who can lead a country." And is he the only person with a brain? Really, are the rest of us stupid or what? You know,
uh,
it's this. It's almost like there's a cult built around this ideology.
uh, uh,
And for me, the best gift that the president that can never give to Ugandans is a peaceful transition into a new leadership.
very
That's the
nice.
best gift he can give to us.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Michael. And coming away from home a bit and looking into diaspora where we are, living away from home. And if somebody's watching this and they're wondering, yes, I'm interested in staying connected with my roots, to be in touch with where I come from, but I find it hard. Sometimes I don't know where to start. How would you advise them with your experience and the knowledge that you have with Chronicles of Iruba?
That is a very deep question.
Yes.
um, it's always going to be a fight,
Yeah,
especially if you're far away from home.
yeah,
Coming from close to the Nile, I'm used to crossing the Nile and seeing the water running. I'm
yeah,
used to seeing the red soil.
yeah,
I'm used to going to the market and hearing the ladies singing akatunguru,
yeah,
nyanya. I'm used to people trying to sell to me mulokonyi. You
yeah,
know, I'm used to the taxi bidi bidi ogenda
yeah,
chireka banda nakawa.
yeah,
This is part of who I am.
yeah,
But what keeps me grounded and connected to these roots and is to first of all not live in denial.
yeah,
The idea or the fantasy, the phantom that is sold to Africans is that when you come to the Western world, you have now by default become better than all the Africans. That is a lie.
yeah,
Why? You have not become better than anyone. If you use this time properly, you will realize that you, of all people, love being connected to your roots.
yeah, yeah,
It's almost like a cow is trying to buck when you see an African try to turn into a European.
yeah, yeah,
It's almost like uh, the fish is trying to climb a tree.
yeah.
Practically impossible.
It's impossible. Yeah,
Exactly. So when you realize I'm fish and that's a constant, I should stay in water
yeah,
or at least always have water around me.
yeah,
Try so much to connect with people who are from your origin.
yeah,
Speak to them,
yeah,
speak your language.
yeah,
That's important. Um, Listen to music from home.
yeah,
Be engaged with the politics, be engaged with the news, be engaged with the developmental ideas that are happening in Uganda.
yeah,
Um, Invest in Uganda. It's the reason why I decided to say, when I write my book, I'm done with it. I'm going to make sure the person who is doing the printing is in Uganda, the person doing the editing is in Uganda, the person designing the cover is in Uganda, the person who is helping me set up all the accounts for is in Uganda. I'm giving, first of all, I want them to have an opportunity to use their skills,
yeah.
but I also want them to be part of my growth process.
Indeed.
The idea, the idea of a Ugandan or an African economy is something we have to uphold. Because if you've noticed, when you come to the Netherlands, there's a Chinese economy, there's an Indonesian economy, there's a Turkish economy, there's a Moroccan economy.
Yeah,
And so we have to keep it close to ourselves, connect
indeed.
with each other. We are not created to live away from each other. We're
Yeah,
created to unite, and that's how we recharge. That's how we connect with our roots because we encourage each other, we call out each other when we make stupid mistakes, say,
yeah,
no, that's not right. You should do it like this. If you connect with the people that connect with you.
indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, very well. Thank you. And you mentioned something else earlier about the dualism, that the two cultures, that some people are finding themselves in sort of like a conflict between what is traditional and what is foreign.
Mm.
And when we think about it, both of these worlds have their good sides
Yeah.
and their not so good sides.
Yes.
Where do we put the balance?
The first of all, you have to accept that this is how the world is going to be.
Yeah,
If you look at the natural form of the world,
yeah,
I'm a little bit of I've done a little bit of research in myself, and I know a bit of generations after me and what these people did. And my one of my great grandfathers was a seer, and he was an African traditional priest.
yeah,
So he was into telling people about life and all these things. And one thing I noticed though is that we kind of live in a form of denial.
yeah,
But even the way the world is set up always tells us.
yeah,
For example, you have the sun and you have the moon.
yeah,
You have the night, you have the day.
yeah,
You have the woman and you have the man.
yeah,
But even you as a man, you have a man side and a female side.
yeah.
So you always are a complete circle in you as an individual. You only have the responsibility to accept it in your mind and actualize it. You know,
Yeah.
the biggest disadvantage that we've had, I don't know if you're familiar with Kemetic spirituality, uh, the only form of belief that started out with the Trinity until Christians stole a leaf from that, from Kemet, the original Kemet, which was original Egypt.
Yeah.
When Jesus went to Egypt, I'm sure he learned something about the Trinity, because that's where we learned the Trinity from.
Yeah.
So most of those Trinities they always had the man, the woman, and another person, another being.
Yeah.
So dualism in a person or in a society is a reality. The modern is here. I can communicate to you because of something modern, because of
Yeah.
a laptop. But the original is also the real us. It stays with us.
Indeed.
So you have a challenge of finding that balance, not being overrun by the modern and not forgetting
The all.
the old person,
Yeah.
and the old you. That is your task. And as long as you're breathing,
Yeah.
you have to find it. You
I
know,
see.
you
Wow.
that you have to deal with it. It's
Yeah.
all, you know what they say, "Wobera omusajja,
Yeah.
ebizibu bijjira abasajja." So today you think I'm
Yeah.
done with the problems, but they're
Yeah.
still checking on you. They're still coming, the
Indeed.
challenges. So these are things you solve on the way.
On the
Constant
way.
reminder in yourself, constant
Yeah.
reminder, being
Yeah.
self-aware and telling yourself, I'm African, affirming these things to yourself, reading more and learning more, educating yourself.
Yeah.
That wisdom will save you a lot of low self-esteem,
Yeah.
living there and thinking, oh, I don't feel good about myself because people say black people are like this, and say like, nope, I know my history, I'm grounded, I don't need someone else to tell me my social responsibilities.
I
So
know what I'm
therefore,
supposed to do.
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's great advice. Thank you so much, Michael. And so you mentioned that you are working on some of the books.
Yes,
So
I
it's
am.
the Chronicles. So can you tell us about the one that you're working on after the Chronicles of Iruba?
So this one was called the Keeper's Call, and I called it the Keeper's Call because at least when I was writing through it, it was always the Keeper's Call. That was the theme. I imagined a priest calling people to a place of gathering and trying to bring them to a set of unity. And the next is what happens, the transitions that you go through.
Yeah.
How, how is society addressing all this? But also bringing into telling stories of what has exactly happened in Uganda, the murder, the violence, and the culture, the marketplace conversations, and all these things.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil it for you.
I see. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. So it's and then you mentioned that you are planning 5 books in this series.
Yes.
Wow. Do you ever struggle with writing ideas?
Uh, no, yes and no. I struggle with the idea of discipline. Sit down and write.
Ah,
I don't struggle with the story
ah,
because before I write a plot.
ah,
I have my plot outline and I have the topics, the themes that I want to put. I create the setting and I actually draw these things in an art book to have a visual representation of what I want.
ah,
And so when I have the funny figures or tell the story on the book, all I have to do when I lose inspiration is go through the art,
ah,
listen to the music, and the story comes back to me the way it is. But it's already written down, and I just keep going. I just keep
ah.
writing, and when it's done, I begin on another plot. So
Nice. Wow, that's a very insightful creative process. So
yeah, it
you
is.
write something down and then you draw something down, and so when you start writing and you run out of uh, or you lose track of where you are, you go back to the drawing and
Yeah, you go back to
that's
the drawing, connect with it, or just see what is happening in
yeah,
society and find what's relevant. You know.
indeed.
Yeah,
That's amazing. And this was very inspiring. Thank you so much, Michael.
you're
Um,
welcome.
so you mentioned that the book is available on Amazon.
Yes, it is available on Amazon, and soon in Uganda it will be available on selected book shelves or stores. So what I'm going to do is I will share it on my social media. I'll share it with you
Yeah,
where people can get copies or who they can contact to get copies for themselves. Um, yeah, it's basically one step at a time. I'm planning a book launch at least here in the Netherlands, so all that information will also be out soon. But that's also after the pandemic because
yeah,
I would like people to come and experience Uganda. I want to bring have some African Ugandan musicians there, poets, so people can have a piece of Uganda that they can, taste and say, okay, this is the culture, this is the music.
yeah.
But I'll keep you informed. And
Most definitely, I would like to stay updated on this.
yeah,
And if somebody watches this interview and they would like to contact you and connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
yeah, Michael Suubi on Facebook, Michael Suubi on Instagram, Michael Suubi Samanya on LinkedIn, um, Samanya Michael at gmail.com. Very straightforward and very easy.
Very nice. We'll
Yeah,
put the links with the interviews so that people can access them and connect with you.
yeah, I would
And
appreciate that.
this was very inspiring. I just want to find out, is there anything else that you would like to share that we have not been able to address in the interview?
Um, my last thought, full of the thoughts to all our viewers would be, as an African, as an individual in this cosmos that we're living in, we have to know that we are important, but we are not. And we have to take the life we have responsibly and enjoy it, share it, and always thrive on the ideas that bring meaning to us and other people. When we do this, we are not going to be sad. We are not going to be bitter people. But the moment we rely on our selfishness all the time,
Yeah,
the world is just we're killing population, we're killing nature, we're killing everything because we want. Let's stop being needy people and let's try and balance between need and giving. Let's be giving needy people, be in the
yeah.
middle there. Give, give until you keep giving, and when you need something, it will just come to you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Michael. That was amazing. I can't add to that. I will
You're
sure be
welcome.
keeping in touch with you.
Thank you